City Game Changers. How are you? Good to see you on this slightly less cold day today. I've heard that you guys have had a lot of really great learning so far. Negotiations, I really wish I could have sat in on that class. FBI, I heard it was not able to be recorded for obvious security reasons, so maybe I'll pull one of you aside to get some insights that you might have learned. We're here today, and I have the time with you post-lunch. Hopefully you're kind of revved up to talk a little bit about leadership styles. We're going to talk about how you show up as a leader. We're going to talk about really some data around leadership, and also more specifically, how you show up when you're not in the room. And we're going to talk about sponsorship and what that means versus mentorship. And I don't mean just a P&G or a GE sponsor of an event. This is a very specific phrase and language that we're going to use around building your leadership and giving you access to those roles that you want to have to help promote your visibility and to allow you to progress along your professional careers. So first, what we're going to do is a quick exercise. So if you'll grab a pen and a sheet of paper, I want you to think of 3 words that describe who you are. This is not your role. I'm a CEO, I'm a mom, I'm a friend, I'm a sister, I'm a daughter. I'm not asking you to describe that. What is your leadership profile? Give me some adjectives or some nouns and just write the top 3 that come to mind that define who you are and how you show up in a room. Great. I would love to have a few volunteers share. Yes. Passionate, engaging, and caring. Wonderful. Someone else. Yes. Genuine, engaged, creative. How about someone else? In the back. Yes. Wonderful. Creative, influential, trustworthy is what you said? Trusted. We're going to come back to trusted too in a little bit. So these are my 3 words. Catalyst, leader, and strategist. And we've all done the different kind of introspective tests on leadership styles, Strengths Finder. If you've done the Enneagram before, that's a favorite. Raise your hand if you've done some of these. DISC, Myers-Briggs. I just did a VIA Strengths character test. They all kind of layer together. Some change over time, others are consistent. But these are the 3 that I really like to put across all social media platforms. I put them on resumes. If I have a bio that's a little longer, I try to make sure that these words are incorporated. And so this is how you show up. And this really becomes kind of your imprint of when you are out in the community, how do you want people to know you, and how do you want them to represent you, and how do they know you're going to authentically engage with them or in a community. And I say this, I know you had a media panel, I believe, right before this, where you were talking about media engagement. I know there'll be different strategies you talk about, even in negotiation. What is that style that you want to make sure that you are authentic to these words that you've picked for yourself? And those can change over time too, but be mindful and really pay attention to the words that you use as you think about what your leadership style is. And there's a reason that I'm guiding you in these kind of rails for how you are showing up as a leader. We know that women hold over half of all professional jobs. This has been a growing trend for many decades, actually. However, only 24% are in management roles, so less than 1 in 4. %, report having a mentor, so that's a strong number. That's something we can celebrate. But men are 46% more likely to say that they have a sponsor. So what does this mean? And why does it matter? If you have a mentor, that's somebody who's helping you as they listen to you and they help to coach you through different things. What is it that's different about having a sponsor? So sponsorship provides a tangible benefit. and this has been studied, and there have been studies around sponsorship, that you can have a proven statistical benefit for getting those high-profile assignments, for getting the jobs that you want, for getting pay raises. So that's real money. You're increasing your net worth, you're increasing your visibility, you're increasing your opportunity to be a leader. Oh no. Were we able to pull that back up? While they're doing that, the next slide is going to talk a little bit about differences between a mentor, a coach, and also a sponsor. And so I want to define that a little bit more for you. I think this is probably the first time some of you might have heard about sponsorship, and so I want to make sure that we have a good working definition for that. When you have someone who's a manager, your boss, that's somebody who tells you what to do. You are working for them, you are getting paid by them, hopefully, and you are delivering a certain set of goals that they have asked you to do. So you're employed by them. That's a manager. They tell you what to do. It really doesn't like it. Can you move to the next slide? There we go. Voila. A mentor is someone who listens to you. So they want to be empathetic, they want to hear what's going on and perhaps serve as a sounding board. A coach is someone who's like a teacher. They help to teach you a skill, improve a skill, hone a skill. It's very much a one-way kind of a transaction. But a sponsor is somebody who is investing in you personally. This is someone who, when you're not in the room, they show up and they talk about you. They put their name on the line for you. They're saying, this is somebody I believe in. And so that's very radically different than the other three roles. Now, before I go into the next few slides, I'm going to let you all know that I am a huge lover of Venn diagrams. So we're going to have a couple of those. I'll show you my favorite one that I use all the time, and this is not really correlated necessarily to what we're talking about today, but I just can't help myself. It's a really good one. I actually had a minor in philosophy. I was almost a philosophy major, but they don't end up really doing that much in my opinion. So I was like, minor would be good, political science major. I've had a couple of kids I'll talk about later. I actually went to school with one of the Backstreet Boys. We were in Greece together, and I was not Sandy, I was Marty, so that's a story for a different day. But I did have a solo, so that was a lot of fun. But I do love a good Venn diagram. So here's a prettier one that's a little more connected to the one that we have today. Sponsor versus mentor. So I'll move out of the way. I know you guys are capturing some of this on your phones. Words are a little bit blurry from the larger perspective, but both will give you advice. Both want to engage with you. Both want you to be your best person, professionally, personally. They are working with you. We all have a lot of mentors. Mentors also work with you, give feedback. They're empathetic. They listen to obstacles maybe that you're trying to overcome, and they might suggest some solutions for you. This is an ongoing trusted relationship. Again, there's that word trust that keeps coming back in. A sponsor, however, is really putting their own influence and their own name on the line. They are saying that I'm actively investing in you, even when you're not in the room. It could be somebody a couple of departments above you in a particular company. It could be somebody in a completely different company in a different line of business. But these are people who are really taking the time to put their name on the line and stick their neck out for you in a space professionally, in a room that you may not even be invited in and you may not even know exists. So you're starting to see the opportunity here with having a sponsor. So I'm going to talk pretty quickly about 4 different profile types of sponsors, and these have been proven over time. Again, there are a lot of different studies that have been done by Gallup and other measurable companies that are looking at workplace data, but also just leadership data overall. So the first one we're going to talk about is drive. And this drive is really connected to career vision and ensuring that somebody who has that clear vision is able to really move actively towards it, not just have it, but actually taking the steps and driving themselves towards accomplishing whatever that vision might be. So this is me. This is back in the 90s. This is with my parents, and this is when I had just graduated from college. And I want to give you some pictures to give you an idea of kind of what stage in my life I'll be sharing stories with you about how I've been able to kind of cultivate these sponsors and the experience of leadership styles that I've had. So my parents loved me, brought me up. I went to the University of Kentucky. I had a political science major, as I said, a philosophy minor. In my senior year in particular, I was really exploring what was going to be next. I was one of those people that changed their major 6 times when I was in college because I felt like I had so many interests and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and a lot of just different skill sets and talents. And this is the lady who became a mentor but eventually became a sponsor for me. And her name is Dr. Penny Miller. We'll call her Penny because I feel like we're not so formal here, right? So Penny was a professor at the University of Kentucky. She's retired now. And she helped to guide me towards creating that vision for myself. I was pretty much just lost in thinking of the magnitude of what I wanted to do professionally in my career. And we're going to have these touchstones along the way that you're going to hear in my life, and I'm sure you guys have felt them too, when you have kind of a crossroads where you're looking at what is it that I want to do next, and I have this opportunity where maybe I want to pivot or I want to change how I'm doing and what I'm doing professionally. She was one of those for me, and luckily it was early on. So she helped me with internships. She helped me with awards. She really taught me to just have very strong work ethic, but also to consider down the road long term the things that I felt I was called to do, but also that I was really good at. So she helped and spent a lot of time working with me on that vision. And then she showed up for me when they had departmental meetings. When it came time for applying, I did go to law school for scholarships. She put her name on the line for me, but she also was able to kind of show me her leadership style, and I kept that with me over time. And this is one of those Gallup proven kind of data points that they know that great leaders, especially in workplaces, motivate others to take action with a compelling vision. So like I said, that drive, that sponsors, you want to have a sponsor that has that drive for you to achieve that vision, they're going to motivate you too. And this is something that I take back with me even with my team now. So I have 2 other team members. We're a small but mighty community foundation located on the northern Kentucky side of our wonderful greater Cincinnati region. And my team really is often talking to me because they're in their young 30s about kind of what's next. And so not only do we talk about the vision for our company, but we talk about that vision for them individually too. And so hopefully you're in a setting, and if you aren't, I would encourage to find a leader, a mentor, and ideally a sponsor who can help you create that vision, not only for the work that you're doing, but also for your own professional career. Back to the sponsor profile. Sponsors enable advancement through experiences. This one seems pretty self-explanatory, but I'll tell you a little bit more about my background. So this is me again about 15 years ago, and these are my beautiful girls who are now in med school. One is married, and the other one is a junior in college. This was a very long time ago. And my husband, I, at the time, was a stay-at-home mom, so I had gone to law school. My husband was actually Secretary of State, so he's now a recovering politician. And so we were at a child abuse prevention event for a nonprofit organization called Family Nurturing Center. And at the time, I was board chair. And I say this because I think as women, we expect to have it all at the same time. And I have heard from many wise women, you can have it all, but just maybe not all at once. So at this time in my life, I would argue I was not being paid for my work. I was doing a lot of leadership work through statewide commissions I served on, foundations, boards I served on, but I also had the role of a mom. But the reason I'm including this is because I think it's important to see the connection to the sponsor I'm getting ready to show you, but also to note that it's important, I think, when you have experiences outside of your professional workplace, kind of day-to-day job, that if you are serving in a volunteer capacity, if you have a side hustle, if there's something that you're sparking, launching, creating of your own, put that in a leadership category on your resume. That's something that I think really shows the full picture of who you are, and it's important that we capture that it's not just the 9-to-5 job that defines who we are, or even the 3 words. We need to bring that picture to full life. So having that leadership category is very important whenever you're thinking about promoting who you are and what you do. So this is the second sponsor I want to mention. This is Patty Nagelkirk. She at the time worked at the Family Nurturing Center, and we met when I was serving on the board. And over time, she actually also is, I just want to put a note out there that she has a degree in ministry. So she is very talented, nonprofit space, but also has that kind of nurturing kind of gift that not all of us have. And so she was someone that I had spent time with, and we got to know one another, and she urged me, she said, Nancy, I look at all these experiences that you've had, and certainly you're putting in the work, but is there something that might spark you to want to take a position, a leadership position where you're paid, where it's a professional role? And I said, actually, yeah, I mean, I have a law degree. I have 2 kids who are getting older. My husband is doing his crazy thing in government. And so I feel like this is time for me to explore that opportunity. And we were able to sit down and talk about kind of strengths, do a SWOT analysis, thinking about what the opportunities were, what I wanted to think about. And here's another Venn diagram for you. Ikigai. I think this really captures a lot of the conversation that we had. This is a Japanese word that essentially means what gets you out of bed in the morning. It's your reason for existing. So it's what you love, what you're good at, so that's your passion. What you love, what the world needs, that's your mission. What you're good at and what you can be paid for, that's your profession. What you can be paid for and what the world needs is your vocation. But if you can find that magical middle portion, your ikigai, you're going to be aligned with not only your skills, with your drive, and hopefully your vision, which will align with all of this. That really is that kind of golden opportunity that we don't get very often, and when you find it, I think it's a rare opportunity that we need to claim. And hopefully you'll have a sponsor that can help you get to that role. But we talked a lot about, not Ikigai specifically, but about these different roles. And so Patty at the time was able to take those experiences that I've had, and when I wasn't in the room, put my name forward for a couple of jobs when they weren't even putting them out there for a formal application process. So it was really just hiring people that were in the networks of others. And I was able to get that first role in a leadership position through an organization that doesn't exist anymore, but it's called Vision 2015. So she helped to build relationships, not only with me, but with others in her network. And because of the trust that they had in her, and because of the trust that I had in her as my sponsor, I was able to have access to that job. And we were talking about trust earlier. This is, in my opinion, something that I think is so super critical moving forward. I was just listening to a podcast, and they were talking about time and using that as a commodity, and really paying mind to the fact that every minute that we have should be used in a way that's meaningful to you. And so if you're investing time in relationships, this is a place where you want to build that trust. I had a meeting recently with another leader in Northern Kentucky, and he said, I want to make sure we keep having meetings because it's important to me to build my time into this relationship so that we can continue to grow together. And that trust that we're building is critically important, and that's what great leaders do, is they know to winnow out kind of the extra space and to spend their precious time, those minutes, on building relationships that create trust. And that's what Patty did, and I'm really grateful for her because it got me on the road to where I am today. A third of the 4 profiles, sponsors champion visibility through their own platforms. This is me. So I mentioned I did sing in high school in Greece. I'm now part of this wonderful group called Suits That Rock, which is a group of CEO. Karen, was that you? Where's Karen Bossi? Yeah, her husband's part of that group with me. So it's a benefit for inner city arts programming for youth in Covington, and it is such a blast. But I was invited to sing and perform, and this gentleman right here, who I have known in other aspects, John Damashko, who was a retired accountant but head of Suits That Rock, asked me to become part of that, which raised my visibility. But also he decided, because of my consistency and how I showed up with the Suits That Rock and my performing, he knew that during the workday there were some opportunities for me to show up in other ways too. So he ended up becoming, at Vision 2015, as luck would have it, my interim executive director. And we worked on a lot of different projects together. And as we worked together more and more, he wanted to give me some more opportunities to kind of flex my leadership muscles, mainly because in the past, I think he felt like I wasn't getting as much visibility as what I could have been. Certainly, the Suits That Rock was helping, but that's in a musical setting. Professionally, there were some different opportunities, and one in particular where there were groups being merged together. Raise your hand, have you ever been part of a merger or tried to help facilitate a merger? Ladies, it's a hard process, and it's not an easy one, and they don't always end up coming to fruition, and I think there's always learning in that too. But these were two organizations that were very closely aligned, and they just were not having the right, I think, approach or maybe facilitation in terms of the conversations. So they were going off the rail. So he suggested that to become not only more visible, but to show that I could do this, right, as somebody he trusted and had seen the work, to lead that process of merging. And after 6 months, I'm happy to say that we were able to merge these organizations together and form where I went to my next job, which is the Northern Kentucky Education Council. And John thought that was important for me to have that visibility, to show to the community that she is a leader, she can do it professionally, it's not just a volunteer job and building this leadership skill over here, but this is something that has worth. And that was important because he was able to assert that so that he could drive the outcomes that not only he wanted, but that I was hoping to achieve too. And as a man and a leader who was in a space that I wasn't invited into, by leaning into that space, even as a man, he was able to show up and say, I really think that Nancy deserves to have this opportunity. And they trusted him, and because he asserted that, we were able to get those end results. This is something that I think as women leaders, this is hard. I think for us to assert ourselves, it's very different, and statistics show this too. Men show up very differently in the workplace than women do. So how do we speak up to make sure that we're heard? How do we make sure that we assert that we want that opportunity for that visible leadership project, or to have that next job, or to get that next raise? We need to make sure that we're speaking up. And that's important because great leaders do that in the workplace and elsewhere in life. And the fourth of the sponsorship profile, and we'll dig in a little bit about how you pick a sponsor here in a minute. Sponsors promote by using their influence in their networks. And this is an obvious one to me, I think, because when I read it, I thought, well, yeah, of course, Nancy. This is something where they're not only representing you, but they're using their larger circles of influence to make things happen for you. So I told you about the merger with that particular organization. This is a picture of the ribbon cutting. In the picture are the head of the Chamber of Commerce, 3 higher ed institution presidents, the heads of some superintendents of some different school districts. We have a bunch of them in Northern Kentucky. It's much simpler on this side of the river. A lot of other kind of C-suite people. But who's not in the picture? Me. I'm not in this picture. I'm taking this picture. And I wanted to share this because even though I had helped to manage the process, I still wasn't at that stage. I still wasn't at the level where they wanted me to be in the picture to say, here's the ribbon cutting and here are the leaders representing the good work that's happening. And that's frustrating. And I'm sure you guys have experienced that too, where you're putting the hard work in and you may not get the recognition that you feel is warranted, or that maybe someone else feels is warranted. So this is the fourth sponsor I'll bring to light. So Mike Hammonds, I had also worked with mainly through policy work in that education council and in the role before Vision 2015. He is very soft-spoken. He is also an attorney like I am, but came to working in the nonprofit space, big heart for education and early childhood advocacy. And he kept saying to me over and over again, Nancy, I think you need to be in a position that's different, where people see you in a different light. And I think I can help you get there. And he kept putting drops in a bucket. And I can't tell you how many times we had coffee, because he was a mentor, where he kept suggesting, I think you need to think about a different path. I think you're in a space where maybe you've hit the ceiling on what you can do. And if you have plans, if your vision that was set forth many years ago, even in college, was to become this leader that was making positive community change, which is what I wanted to do, he said you need to think about something different, maybe in the same space, but something outside of maybe your comfort zone even. And so this is me when we launched in 2017, Horizon Community Funds. This is with a group of about 300 community leaders that were at the Metropolitan Club over in Covington. The head, actually now current CEO of P&G, John Mueller, was in the room. Bill Butler with Corporex, Mike Schlattman, who was the retired now CFO of Kroger. You had a lot of really influential political officials. This was a very big deal. And how did I get here? It was because of Mike putting my name repeatedly into the hat with the search firm. He was a sponsor for me. And these were conversations I was not part of. I knew they were happening, but they were smaller, community-led, primarily white men, I'll be honest with you, conversations that were being had with the community on how do we launch this, how do we make it authentic, how does it reflect our community. And so after 5 interviews, which was a long process, they agreed by Mike having put my name in the hat to hire me for this very important role and to build from the ground up, like many of you who are entrepreneurs in the room, something out of nothing, which is one of the most terrifying things in the world, Rachel. I know Rachel definitely is in this space right now too. She grows her empire of awesome gratitude companies. But to be in that space and to be in that role, I think because a lot of those leaders in that area had said, we know she's productive, we know she has a proven track record as a leader. And it's not political. And I'm not going to be naive and say that politics aren't part of a decision. They certainly are. That's just who we are as human nature. We're going to have that lens regardless. But showing that work ethic, having that sponsorship, and having those leaders make that decision has really been, I think, rewarding to me, but has also reminded me that sometimes some of the best people who are going to be team members and colleagues with you and in your network are folks who are just going to show up and get things done, and we really need to align ourselves with those people. So making decisions based on that. Really quickly, I think we've heard a little bit about the benefits of sponsorship, but we know data shows that when you ask for a raise, 78% of us, we aren't speaking up. We're not asking for that raise. I've seen that happen in real life with my own team between a male and a female when we've had our review. But when you have a sponsor, 38% of women make that request, and they succeed. "36% of females approach their manager to get that highly visible project, like what we were saying with the merger, for instance, was a key one for me. But with the sponsor, the numbers increase, and they successfully achieve getting those roles. So quickly, and I know we're running short on time, putting efficacy over affinity when you're thinking about who a good sponsor is. This essentially to me means making sure someone is effectively able to advocate for you. Like Mike Hammonds, the last sponsor I mentioned, being able to articulate why it is that they should pick me over just somebody who might have a similar style or a similar background. So making sure that they're effective is important. Don't be put off by a leadership style of a potential sponsor. There are a lot of potential people out there who maybe are a little more outspoken or a little soft-spoken than you, so don't let that drive that decision-making process. Friends obviously don't make the best sponsors, although I will add you should consider having a personal board for your own brand and your own professional journey. I have one of about 8 women that I trust and love, different ages, different backgrounds, and they are really kind of my guiding board. They're friends, they're professional colleagues, and when I want to really grapple with a tough decision, I have a personal board, so I would highly recommend you consider. If you have friends that are sage and have good advice, maybe they could serve in that role instead. And finally, impress your boss, but they aren't your sponsor. You want to seek somebody who has the power to change your career and to change those outcomes in your path. Because power is not given to you, you have to take it. I love Queen Bee. I'm so grateful of the time together today. I'm sorry we had to shorten it a little bit, but again, thank you so much, and good luck with the rest of your game-changing time together.